In learning objective 4, what we're going to move on to now is the supply side of the labor market. So we want to look at labor supply. And something that's really important to remember when we think about demand and supply curves is that the labor supply curve is a hypothetical. And so is the demand curve. Meaning it doesn't necessarily represent what is true in reality or what is true in equilibrium. So let me think about this question a little more generally. What we want to ask with respect to labor supply is how many people want to work, or how much would we want to work if the wage is, say, $50 an hour. Now, the answer could be quite a bit, right? So if I asked you if you could make $50 an hour at your current job, you would probably say you want to work more hours than you currently do. Now, you would also say that's irrelevant because I can't work that many hours, especially now. So maybe I work at a restaurant. So currently, if I was a waiter or a waitress, I am no longer able to work, right? Restaurants aren't able to have in the restaurant dining services. So that's not our point here, right? So that's an issue of equilibrium, that at this wage, there's not enough labor demand. All we want to know is, on the supply side, how many people want to work, or how many hours of work would we be willing to engage in at any particular wage? Okay, so let's see if we can figure out how this works. And so when we think about, am I going to work or not at a particular wage, I'm going to evaluate, well, what else could I be doing? So if I didn't go to work at this particular wage, what else might I do? Well, the opportunity cost of working is the time. It's the time I spend. So what else could I be doing? I could be engaged in leisure, which is just having fun. So whatever you do to have fun would be your other option here. Or there's other activities. So among those, you could have home production. It's probably not something super relevant for students in the 18 to 20-year-old bracket. But home production are things like cleaning and home maintenance, those types of activities. But you could also think of human capital accumulation. So we talked about human capital in the last chapter, which is things like studying. So right now, presumably, you're watching this at home while you're studying. Maybe a few of you are watching it at work. But that is an alternative to going to work, is spending time studying. And that's the opportunity cost of going to work. Now, if I flip this around, what are the opportunity costs of these activities? So right now, if you're studying, what are you giving up? You're giving up your foregone wages. So let's say the wage you make at work is $15 per hour. If you spend 1 hour studying, that's going to cost you $15. That's the opportunity cost. That's what you gave up to do that 1 hour of studying, was not working for 1 hour. So if I think about how labor supply looks like, right? So as that wage increases, so let's say I increase the wage from $15 per hour to $30 per hour. And I want to ask, what happens to the quantity of labor supply? Does it increase or decrease? Now, there's two effects that are going to matter to answer that question. The first is what we call the substitution effect. The substitution effect says when the wage increases, the opportunity cost of leisure increases. Leisure is more expensive. And so a substitution effect says, I buy less of the more expensive thing. So when the wage goes up, it's more costly to spend time having fun. And so I'm going to engage in less leisure, less home production, less studying, and more labor supply. So the substitution effect says the wage goes up, the quantity of labor supplied is also going to increase. The other effect is what we call an income effect. The income effect says that when your wage increases, that means you are effectively richer, right? So let's take our $15 to $30 example. And let's say you make $15 an hour and you work for 2 hours. So you're going to earn $30 in total income, 15 times the 2 hours you worked. Now, when your wage increases to $30 per hour, notice you only have to work 1 hour to earn $30. So now you can afford to have more leisure because your income is effectively increased. So the income effect says that because you're richer, you can afford more leisure. And so the income effect says as the wage increases, the quantity of labor supplied is going to decrease. So next, what we're going to do is try to decide which of these two effects dominate, and that's going to help us trace out the labor